Hi, thank you for joining Salpo CRM's deep dive into our communications feature. Today we're just going to be taking a little look into how you add communications into the system, schedule and manage your own tasks, as well as viewing that across your team, how you mark those tasks complete, and categorize your own types of communication methods. So it's taking it beyond just the typical emails, phone, texts. You're actually able to track time on actions as well. And we're also looking at drawing attention to other team members so you can alert them as to where your actions are, what's the most recent update against a project or a contact, tagging other records within the system, and emailing reminders out to the team as you're getting that information. What we're looking at right now is the Salpo CRM home dashboard. This is customizable for every single user that logs into the system. So each user is building out their own dashboard in the widgets that they're seeing here. One of the main widgets that our customers are using is this communications widget. We call it a useful widget in our system. So if you ever come over to add it, here you click on add and then choose useful widgets. And it's just allowing you to really have an in-your-face presence of what your task list or to-do list is. What displays in this scheduled communications box is just that, your scheduled communications. So I can look at all of my tasks that are due today, tomorrow, anything that's overdue, or a list of all of them. So you'll see here I've got a lot of overdue ones and some scheduled ones. If I look at today, it's just specifically the ones that I have due today. I have some quick action links so that I'm not having to navigate far from this page and still get my work done to complete this task. What I'm going to do is use this conversion button. A little window modal will pop up with the notes that's associated with that communication. And I can just type in my description here, completed call, went well, something like that, and hit convert. This then takes that task off of my to-do list. If there's something that I'm seeing that I'm not going to be able to get to in time, I can actually postpone it by a defined amount of time and then say minutes, hours, or days. So let's say I want to postpone this by 10 minutes, and you'll see that those overdue tasks have now fallen off of my to-do list. And the other one is now postponed by 10 minutes. So how am I entering these tasks into the system? First off is navigated to a records profile page. I'm actually on a contacts profile page. I can add a communication against this contact. So let's say I've just met Addison out at a business meeting and I want to add the notes and the follow-ups to that information. So I'm going to click on communication here and it will open up the communication window box. I have a title in here, so I can just say meeting notes. I have a flag here to mark its importance. And then I get to pick the communication type of method, how it took place. So this was a meeting, so I'm just going to put in notes like that. I have my attendees, who this is from and who it was to. So Natalie is myself as the end user in the Salpo system, and Addison is my contact. If I have other attendees that were present, I can add them into the system as well. So if I want to add a couple of other folks, I can do that to show that they also attended the meeting. If there are other staff members present, I can also add them into the meeting. I can define the start and end date and time. So if this meeting had taken place historically, I can move it back. And then I want to change the time to say it was 10 a.m. And my end date now has to move and say that the meeting lasted until 10:30. Right now, I may not have any tags that I want to associate it with, but a tag represents another record within the system, so against one of our other modules. So if you see in the background up here, I've got a list of module headers, and this represents the other modules in our system. So right now I'm on a contact record page, but maybe this communication is about a specific opportunity that we have in the system. Right now I'm using this tag that represents that opportunity in the system. So I can search by that tag, or I can actually type out the title of the opportunity. And you saw that that one said Concoction Restaurant, but there's two here. So how do I know which opportunity it's in relation to? So that's why knowing which tags you have are great in attaching that tag in here. So then I have a typical description text editor box. So I can create different heading sizes, bold, italic, strike through, put hyperlinks, bullet points, things like that. But I can just put in my notes, 1, 2, 3. What you're seeing down at the bottom right-hand side of this box is because I have my Office 365 calendar synced with my account, it's giving me an option to sync data with the 365 account. But if I click on this little box, I'm unable to do that because the sync only works with scheduled communications. So after we save this one, I'll show you about how to sync a scheduled communication into your calendar. So right now I'm just adding the notes into the system. The next box asks if I want to create another to schedule that follow-up task for me of any task items that we had from this meeting. The last element that's in this screen are the custom fields. So even though this is a communication, I can have some custom fields against it, like what's the urgency of this meeting, the meeting notes, or do I need to pass on this task to somebody else in the system? Have they paid? I can create any different type of custom fields that I want to associate against the communication to then have that data populate against it. All of this information that I'm entering into this screen in one of these custom category type fields is all searchable and reportable within the system on the communications list view page. The information is really just giving you that detail. So I'm going to click on create another and hit save. And then that communication will push into the system here, and you'll see the meeting notes has populated down here. The system will categorize your communications chronologically. And then when I click on create another, you'll see it's kept all of the existing information in here, so I'm not having to repopulate it, which is great. I'm going to change the title though, and so I can put any information in here, keep all of the same tagged items, but now this isn't a meeting, this might be a telephone call, or maybe I want to follow up via email. I can change that communication method type to show what the intention is. Now, if I want to forward date this, this is where I'm creating a scheduled communication. Let's say I want to move this to a week from now, and I'm going to change the timing to be 10 o'clock again, and I'll do the forward date and leave it at 10 o'clock as well, since it's just going to be a meeting and I can change it afterwards. So this is now for a scheduled communication because it's forward dated. Moving the date forward, I'm also given now this reminder box. So I can define if I want to be notified when this communication is due, meaning do I want to get a email notification saying that this communication or this task is coming up in my calendar. Just like the postpone box, I can use this defining a time amount and then defining minutes, hours, or days before. So if I want to receive an email notification 10 minutes before I should send out this email, that's what this is defining. It's just a little reminder in the system. So maybe notes 2 and 3 aren't associated with the follow-up, but just one is. So I can schedule this one in here and change my notes and update that. And I don't want to create another after this, so I'm going to deselect that. But you'll see this is now pre-selected to sync with my Office 365 calendar. So what will happen if this is ticked is that this will send directly to my calendar in Office 365. If I make any edits or changes to the date and time or notes within my Office 365 calendar meeting invite, that then syncs back and shows in my Salpo communication. And if I make any updates and changes to the Salpo communication, it then will show in the meeting detail in your calendar in Office 365. So now I'm going to go ahead and click save. That's how I'm creating and adding communications against a record profile page. And that can be done against any other type of profile page. So if I jump to opportunities, and now that I've clicked into the opportunity for Concoction Restaurant, I can see that there's been a scheduled communication put in against this profile page. And that's because we tagged it in there. So if I go to the Opportunities Communications tab, I'll see a record of that communication, and I can see that there's a tag here. Now, if I click on Addison's profile page, it's going to take me back to that profile page. And if I look at communications, you'll see that same element. So this is the where are they with the review, and I can see that tag of tagging it with the opportunity to Concoction Restaurant. If I have my email synced with Salpo, it will pull in as a communication and follow in this chronological order, and it will automatically have this email method type in here. You can watch on our YouTube videos how to set up and sync your email accounts and what that looks like. But just so you know, they are stored as communications against profile record pages as long as the system recognizes the email address associated with that contact's profile page. If you include any of the tags within the subject line on your email, it will push as a communication against that module records profile page as well. So if I included that op11 in the subject line of one of my emails, it would populate against that opportunities profile page. So now how do I set up communications? That's all done via the control panel. Only users with access to the control panel will be able to design and set this up. After clicking on the communications link in the control panel, it takes me to the communication custom fields page. So you can see those custom fields we'd created on the left-hand side and where they're set up. This is where that is built architecturally in the system. And if I want to define any of those types, I then toggle to the type section. And then you'll see that this is where I had those custom types, and this is where I had my default ones. If I want to add a custom type, I come to the right side of the screen and click on that green add button, and now I get to name it. So one of the ones we talked about was troubleshooting, and then I get to choose an icon. I'm just going to use other and click save. But if you see here, I've not spelt it correctly. You can come back in and edit any of this information after you've put it in. So if you need to make any amendments, the control panel availability in here is very easy to update, change, and manipulate. I can do the same with my custom fields against the communication. And then if I need to make any edits to any of these fields, these edit pencils are available. And these three little line dots give you the availability to change the order of any of this information if you need to. Or if I wanted assigned to populate before urgency, I can update and change that information as well. Lastly, we talked about recording or reporting on communications. So where do we do that? I get to the communications list view page after clicking on communications in the top header bar. I get a list of all of the communications that I'm associated with by default. I'm defaulted as the participant here. I can change and add this information or add other users or contacts into this field, but if I only want to see my own, then I can just leave it as is and I don't have to do anything. I can then filter based off of any of those fields that were in the communication pop-up window modal. So I can look at created by, subject, type, tags. So like we said, show me all of the communications associated with that one specific ticket. Or in this instance, let's use op11 and update that. And now I can see all of the communications that we've had against that specific opportunity. An example of one of our clients using this is they use it for billable hours. They need to track time spent doing like casework. Another client uses this to track time spent with their consulting clients. If I needed to say, show me all of the communications with a specific client, and then I needed to track the duration or sum that amount up, I'm able to research and find that information via this reporting page. I then also have the availability to filter based off of any of those custom fields we'd created. If I want to filter by type, another great example of this is from some of our marketing customers where they've created a custom field type called Facebook posts and blog posts. So they're doing marketing efforts based off of, promoting their clients, and to quantify their efforts, what they're doing is later then filtering to say, show me all of my communications with a specific client, where the type is Facebook post that wasn't within the last month. So then it's quantifying the efforts that they'd done that prior month, and then you can use that information for reporting to see what any new conversion rates are and things like that. If I want to edit a communication, I can do that directly on the contacts profile page or from within this list view page. So I'm not having to navigate over there. But if I click on edit, it just pops up with that same window modal. If I want to click and view the communication and I just click on it, it will expand out when I'm in the list view page. I can also draw the attention to any contacts. So if I click on draw attention here, you'll see a list option pops up as available, and I can click on Paul here and draw his attention to that. He then would get an email drawing his attention to that communication or any notes that I put in. If I'm using this functionality on a profile page, because this is that new design layout, it will look slightly different. So if I click on a communication in here, this window modal pops up, and I can still see all the same details, but the extra functionality of drawing attention and attaching files is at the bottom of my screen. So now if I want to draw Paul's attention, I just click on that, select the user that should have his attention drawn, and then just hit this green tick box, and it will send him an email, and you'll see the notification at the top right of the screen confirming that action's been completed. If I click on the draw attention box again, you'll see a little audit trail of what's happened previously as well, so you can see that his attention's already been drawn. Attaching files works similarly in that the bottom element pops back open. You can label it, and to select your file, it's just opening up your file browser on your computer. So you just choose that, label it, and attach the file to that specific communication. Any file attachments that come across in your emails will also attach here. So if someone's sent over a signed copy of a returned terms and conditions or something, or contract, then you'll see that information populate in the attached files. A great use of drawing attention is if someone's out of the office and you know you're not going to be able to follow up on something, you can draw their attention and ask them to assist or help cover that element for you while you're out of the office. How we use it internally is if one of our sales team members has had a new qualification come through and they have some questions, they might draw a product specialist's attention to that, so then they can get some answers quickly addressed, and then they can get back to the sales prospect. From in here, I can also edit or convert a communication. I can only convert communications or complete them when they are scheduled. If it's just a meeting note, I wouldn't have that availability. And so right now you'll see I'm on that first communication in this list of communications with this contact. And in the bottom right hand side of the screen, you'll see these little toggle arrows. So if I want to quickly jump to some of the next ones, I can just click these toggle arrows and it will take me to the next communications, and you'll see this little gray line has moved as I'm clicking the next options. Lastly, we're going to have a look at bulk scheduling communications. If I go to a contacts list view page, there are some actions that I can do when working with my contacts. If I apply a filter to say, show me all of the individuals where their satisfaction rating is low. I have 3 folks listed in here. Well, now my action is going to be update, and then I'm going to update contact communications. So this is allowing me to now do a bulk communication update because I want to follow up with these people and understand why their satisfaction rating is low. If I click that bulk edit option and then choose to update communications, I just hit next, and then that same communication window modal pops up. I'm going to give them a call, and then this auto populates for my selected contacts. So it's using those 3 contacts and putting them in here. And I'm scheduling it against myself. But maybe this isn't for me to do. I'm the manager and I want to actually assign this out to another user in the system. I can do that and just select the contact's name. If I want to forward date this information, I can forward date it as well. Change the timing, tag it with an associated opportunity if necessary, and then also have the reminders element scheduled in here. An example of why I would want to tag something in here is if I'm following up with a bunch of contacts that or leads that I've possibly met at a marketing event or a networking event, and so I want to schedule a follow-up with my all of those contacts that I met at that event, just to say, you know, thanks so much, enjoyed meeting you, would like to discuss an opportunity, a beneficial opportunity between both our organizations soon. And so I can associate that tag with the event where we met them. Then I can know potentially what any leads that then came from that event were down the line. So then I can quantify, do I want to go to that event again next year? But if I now jump in here and hit next, it will just ask me to confirm. And as soon as I hit confirm, all of those contacts will now have an added communication against them. So let's jump into one of their profile pages, but you'll now see that Natalie has a scheduled communication to follow up for the low satisfaction rating element. And so that's how you can bulk schedule communications across the system, and so you're not having to do all the onesie twosie additions. So I think that covers communications and deep diving into that Salpo feature. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you're a prospect client and want to have a one-on-one demonstration or want to learn a little bit more about Salpo and some of our other features, please don't hesitate to reach out to our marketing@salpo.com team, and they'd be happy to get you in touch with the appropriate resource. If you're an existing customer, or even if you're just trialing the system and have a couple questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our support@salpo.com team. And either way, a knowledgeable team member will get back to you with some assistance. And we really appreciate you joining today. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.